Hello my fellow chatterers and stat lovers, and anyone else who's popped in because you're curious about what this is or you've got a bit lost. Welcome anyway. Feel free to stick around if you love book stats, because that is what I will be chatting about madly today, because I am Chatty, the Mad Chatter. Welcome to my channel. And also I do not edit my videos. I just do a continuous roll, and we see where it takes us. So it is one shot, no editing. Cheers everyone. So this is everything I read in December. I didn't do a set TBR like I usually do with my TBR game. If you want to know what my TBR possibilities was, I will link it here. And I indulged in 3 readathons. So there are no punishments or rewards for this month because I wasn't doing a set thing. However, I did pull a punishment out from that was applied to this month. I can't remember which month it was that it was from, but basically the punishment was I can't read any of my January books until I've read all of my December books. And because I didn't have a TBR, that seemed a bit crazy to try and do. But what I decided was I will just choose one readathon, and I have to I've read all the books I wanted to for that readathon before I move into January. So these are all the books that were for, these are all the ones I read this month, and all of them have hit a prompt in the Reindeer readathon. And I read all of them apart from Fool's Fate, but I am including it in this wrap up because I read most of it in December. I just finished it in January. And then, so there we go. I am ready to start the January books. So that's all dealt with now. So let's just go straight into the stats. So first I'm going to look at age ranges. So I read 3 books that were middle grade books. Once We Were Witches and Twice We Make Magic, both by Sarah Driver, and Shadowsea by Peter Bunzel. I then read 2 YA. I'm putting I Capture the Castle by Dodie Smith as an adult book. It could be a YA, but for me I'm putting it in an adult category just because that's where I felt you'd get the most nuances, I suppose, from it. So I'm kind of putting it in that category rather than YA, but there we go. So I read 2 YA, and the 2 YA I am counting is this duology, Even the Darker Stars by Heather Fawcett, and All the Wandering Light, also by Heather Fawcett because it's a duology. And the remaining 4 are adult books. That is I Capture the Castle by Dodie Smith, The Golden Fool and Fool's Fate, both by Robin Hobb, and A Rabble of Drabbles and Doodles by Wen Clark. So the next thing I'm going to talk about is the sizes of these books. So I like to link all of my books to animal size because I work visually and it just makes sense to me. So I have one ant size book, which is A Rabble of Drabbles and Doodles by Wen Clark. The reason it is ant size is because each double page has 100 pages. It is full of sort of pieces of, it's full of drabbles, which you can interpret as short stories, pieces of writing, poetry, and there's 104 of those in here, all of 100 words. So to me, it fitted the ant category, which I say is below 150 pages, even though technically this has 206. Not all of them are covered in text. I then read, I hope I had this the right way, 2 goat-sized book. So no mice this time. And my goats are you a goat as well, or are you a cow? No, you're a cow. So I read 2 goat-sized books. No, I changed it, sorry. Let me just double check everything before I carry on. Yeah, that was it. I changed it on my phone, but I'd already transferred the notes to my notebook and hadn't updated it. 3 goat-sized books. So goat is anything that is 300 to 400 pages. And Twice We Make Magic and Shadowsea, and also Once We Were Witches. It's like 370 pages roughly. And for some reason, I think I copied them off either of Storygraph, and I think it was kind of listed as having more pages than what it actually had for some reason. So there we go. 3 goats. And then I read three cows, which is Even the Darkest Stars, All the Wandering Light, and I Capture the Castle. And cows are 400 to 500 pages. And then I have 2 whales. And both these books are between 700 and 900 pages. So quite a mix of books this month, which is cool. I'm now going to look at genre, which is relatively simple. I think you might be able to work out already what the fave genre was this month. So I'm just going to pick out the ones that aren't that. Sorry, I could have paused, but I couldn't be bothered. So we have 6 fantasy books. Twice We Make Magic, Once We Were Witches, Even the Darkest Stars, All the Wandering Light, Golden Fool and Fool's Fate. We then have what I'm putting in the short story / poetry collection, which is A Rabble of Drabbles and Doodles. And I categorise Shadowsea as magical realism. It is also historical, but I feel it kind of hits that magical part. It's not full on fantasy because it's just a certain type of their world that is sort of reimagined as though we have lots of clockwork mechanicals, which are sort of like robots. And it has a very kind of steampunk Victorian vibe, but it doesn't go fully into kind of the Victorian side of things for me to put it in like the historical side. So magical realism is the one I'm going for this one. And then I'm going for I Capture the Castle. I think it's a modern classic. That's what I'm going for. I mean, it's been, this specific copy I have has been, here we go, look. It says here, Vintage Classics. I don't know if you can see because of the shine, but it says Vintage Classics on the copy I have. So I'm definitely going, it is a classic. That's I Capture the Castle by Dodie Smith. I will pause this time. So I'm going to do a little kind of series update now. So I do have like a full-on video that I dedicate to really looking through where I am with all my series. I will link that playlist over here. But for this month, I technically started 2 series, but not really because I'd already started them. I just wanted to reread the first one to refresh myself. And that was Once We Were Witches by Sarah Driver and Even the Darkest Stars by Heather Fawcett. And I am now up to date with the Once We Were Witches. I think it's a duology and I think I finished it, but I'm holding out hope that I'm wrong because I feel like there's more to the story. If you saw my wrap up, you would hear all my thoughts on Twice We Make Magic. So I'm up to date. Twice We Make Magic is the latest book in the Once We Are Witches. I want it to be a series. But yeah, I feel there's more to it. But it did feel like it was trying to be wrapped up, whether by author or publisher. There was an epilogue sort of wrapping up most of the story together. So I think it's probably finished now, which makes me sad. But I'm currently leaving it in the up-to-date. I'm holding on to that bit of hope. I'm leaving it in the up-to-date space. And I finished 3 series. So I finished the Cogheart adventure books. So myself and Vadania finally finished this cog-along together. Sadly, neither of us, this is our least favourite book of the series. But genuinely, we have really, really enjoyed reading this series together. So this is the final one. We have completed a middle grade series. Woohoo! Get us. I also already mentioned that I completed a duology, which was the Even the Darkest Stars duology here. And I have completed the Tawny Man Trilogy. So that is the 3rd series in the Realm of the Elderlings. Still going with the ongoing series, but I'm counting the 5 series individually in terms of my stats. So 3 series finished, which feels great. That feels like a really good achievement. Which is good because some of the other stats are not so good. we will go on to those now. So yeah, in terms of reading global majority books, which is all books that are not just white Western culture, basically. So any books by BIPOC authors, those types of things, none. There is none. This is a very white Western selection here, which makes me sad because I want to read more diversely. I want to have a range of stories on my shelves. But this month it was very much focusing on finishing off series, and most of the series I'm reading are all series that are white Western series. So there we go. So no feeling good about reading diversely and hitting those goals, but did finish some series. So it's balancing itself out, but we will strive for better next month. And looking at authors, so last month, I think it was the first time I read predominantly male authors. Usually it's kind of generally more female or like 50-50. This month we have gone back to more female authors. There is only 2 authors on here, which were not. So there we go. We have 7? Yeah, 7 books by female authors. Twice We Make Magic, Once We Were Witches, Even the Darkest Stars, All the Wandering Light, I Captured the Castle, The Golden Fool and Fool's Fate. 1 book by a male author, which is Shadowsea by Peter Bunzel. And 1 book by a non-binary author, which is A Rabble of Drabbles and Doodles by Wen Clark. So yay for non-binary. And it's just decided to throw itself off the shelf. Yay for non-binary representation. So that is one thing that was better than the previous month. And the next thing I'm going to look at is the format of the books. And again, I shouldn't bother putting that one back, but not particularly exciting. 8? I read 9 books. Yeah, so 8. Really should pay more attention to my own notes. I've read 8 books. 8 of these are novels, and 1 is a collection of Drabbles. And 8 of these are mine, which is brilliant. And 1 is a library book. Nothing against library books. I love getting books out of the library, but I'm trying to read what I own for the Read What You Own challenge. So that was better. If only they all counted. We will get onto that in a moment. And I think that's everything. Oh no. So I've already mentioned that 2 of these I have reread. So that was Once We Were Witches and Even the Darkest Stars, because I wanted to refresh myself in the series. So 2 rereads and 7 new reads for me. And I've covered everything. Yeah, I've covered everything. I'm just whipping through it today, which is nice. Yep, all covered, cool, lovely. So the last thing to do is to tell you which was my least favourite of the month and which was my most favourite. And I don't know if this is because I'm getting better at being more, by pushing myself to make more choices. But again, this wasn't this hard this month. Sadly, my least favourite was Shadowsea. I think if it wasn't part of the Cogheart adventures, it might be, if it was just a standalone, it's probably a book that I would let go of. But because it's part of the quartet, I will keep it. But I just wasn't as excited by it as I was by the other ones. I just felt the story wasn't as fun. I felt some of the other characters they meet were, they didn't seem to have consequences to their actions. I enjoyed reading it in winter. It had surprising winter vibes, which I did enjoy. But generally, I just felt some of the plot points were kind of, that had already been explored and hashed out, were kind of hashed out again. And by that, I mean like the characters' emotional journeys. Other plot points I think that could have been explored in here, even though those characters were present, weren't really fully explored. And I was hoping for a villain to return that we didn't get, and have more explored in some of the themes that we finished Sky Circus with, but then weren't taken up again in Shadowsea. So I think I was just a little bit disappointed with kind of like where it went, especially because this was the final book in the series and would be pulling everything together. But it was just another fun adventure, and that's fine. It's fine to just have a fun adventure, but I want a more emotional, I want to say gravitas, but I really don't feel that's the right word. My brain just needs to stop throwing words in my head just because it likes the sound of them. More emotional range maybe in here. It was trying to bring emotions out, but it wasn't working for me. Maybe it was a reader-writer bad mix. But anyway, my least favourite for this month. My favourite for this month was Robin Hobb Fool's Fate. No question, hands down, because this is my favourite Hobb. I love Hobb. Her books are of such a high standard and have a high place of love in my heart. But the emotional payoff we got in this book, if I was just reading it as a standalone, it wouldn't have that. But because you have gone through 5 other books around specific characters, 3 other books around the world, and also exploring another character, the emotional payoff in this book is just phenomenal. It's phenomenal. It's so good. I can't wait to keep reading this series. I'm just in awe of her. I just can't get enough of this. Love this. Love and appreciate the wonder, the beauty, the glory of Fool's Fate. Best book. So that was really easy for me. It wasn't even a case of like deciding between the 2 Hobbs. I mean, I had a great time with Golden Fool. Brilliant book. Really, really love it. But you don't get the payoff in Golden Fool. The Golden Fool is still middle, joining the stories together, arcing the characters, setting up, making us go through difficult moments. But then Fool's Fate, just so good. So good. Just hits you in all the right places. It puts you through the ringer, but in the best way. In the best way. It's amazing. I need to stop talking about Fool's Fate. Blinkers. We are going to talk about Read What You Own Challenge. So, 2 months in, we've had November, we've had December. November, read 4 books from my shelf. My goal is 21. December, let's see how we're doing. Twice We Make Magic. It's my book, but I earned it after I agreed to the Read What You Own Challenge. So one of my rules was that I'm still going to give myself books from under my bed because I earn books for being healthy, but they will not count towards the Read What You Own Challenge because it's like getting a new book. But I want to try and be healthy, so I'm going to keep going with it. But they won't count. So Twice We Make Magic didn't count. Maybe you ask, why did you read it that month then, you crazy person? Because I was doing a buddy read with Vadania, okay? It made sense at the time, and I got to finish a duology. Once We Were Witches, reread doesn't count. Even the Darkest Stars, reread doesn't count. All the Wandering Light, it counts! All the Wandering Light counts. We have 1. Shadowsea, yes, it counts. We have 2. I Captured the Castle is a library book, doesn't count. Rabble and Drabbles and Doodles, it counts. The Golden Fool, it counts. Fool's Fate, I earned it after I started the challenge, so it doesn't count. So we have 4. So we're being consistent. I am reading 4 books off my shelves for this challenge. So we have a grand total of 8, not even halfway through. And I wanted to hit all this by February. I cannot see me reading, bit of maths, 13. Can't see me reading 13 books in January, especially because one of my goals is to read less. I want to be reading 6 to 8. And some of those books I think I've set myself for January, they do not all count for the Read What You Own Challenge. So definitely not happening. I should hopefully be reading a few more. It will trickle into February. I'm really hyped about certain middle grade books that I was going to check their release date and totally forgot to do. But I think actually 2 of them are released in March. So it's okay. And I'm not going to earn them. I'm just going to have them to own and read at my will and pleasure. I may have to make a purchase though before I get to that point, because the Hobbalong Fool's Fate was December. We're having a break in January and we're picking up the Rainwild Chronicles in February, and I do not own a single one of the Rainwild Chronicles. So that is something I need to sort out. So I will make an exception and only buy that book, not buy anything else. Even if something looks good around it, just buy the one book. Don't even buy the next book, just buy that one Rainwild Chronicles first book, which I think... No, I don't know. City of Dragons. I don't think it's Dragonhaven. I think it's City of Dragons. No, I don't know what it is. It's there's 4 of them. They all have the word dragon in them. I'm not sure which one it is, but it's the first one. I need to get the first one. So that's how I'm doing with Read What You Own Challenge. hopefully January will look more positive and we will do this. I'm having a great time doing this. I am excited to be ticking these things off my shelves and hitting all those goals. I think I am going to do like a 2022 stat overview of looking at kind of reading what I own. How have I been reading what I hold? What was the best reading month for me in terms of like mixing up my genres or reading most fantasy? Yeah, I'm gonna have a little overview stat exploration. I think that'll be fun because I do love a stat. How has your December been? What are you excited for reading in 2023? Do get chatty in the comments and let me know. Happy reading, everyone.